Go!
Hello everyone and welcome back. It feels so good to say that again. Welcome back everyone. It's been a little bit of a wait, it's been a little bit of a while, but we're here with SIMseniors once again. My name is Ben Sapsford and you might notice a little bit of visual tweaks here and there. Now, I did go back to the drawing board a little bit on the back end. I did do a few tweaks, as well as you may see some of the pictures rolling behind me. Now, to any of the racers out there this season, this is a direct call out to you before we get started. If you get any good shots, if you go look at replays, post them in the Race Picks channel on that Discord, because you never know, you might get a chance to have that picture appear right behind me. But it's good to be back once more, and we have got some very interesting changes trackside as well. One of the big things, of course, being that this is no longer the Tuesday Night Championship. This is just Season 9. So the decision was made to effectively combine a lot of the sort of work and a lot of the championship from 2 nights to one. We instead now have a non-championship Monday night race and a Tuesday night championship race for all of the marbles, and this is where things get spicy, because this is going to mean bigger grids, this is going to mean better racing, this is going to mean more. So hopefully everyone in the chat is feeling excited as I am for the sessions and for the season that is about to take place. We are going to first round in Spa. It is going to be an absolutely beautiful circuit to take ourselves around. But one thing that needs to be mentioned is the full calendar. And we have got a very nice calendar graphic courtesy of the one and only Colin, or at least Colin sent it over to me. So thank you for that. You join us tonight for Spa, but next week is going to be Silverstone, followed by Kyalami and Mount Panorama, and then Germany at the Nordschleife to finish off the first half of the season. Then we have a break week, and following that, it's a straight shot to the finish. We go to Monza, we stay in Italy for Imola, we go to Barcelona, we're heading even to Paul Ricard, and then we finish off at Suzuka. So 10 race season, tightly packed. A lot of racing, a lot of drama, and a lot of different faces as we're about to get into. First things first, spotters guides. You know them, you love them, you see plenty of friendly faces, namely Lenatus, coming off of his brilliant performance in Season 8, being promoted up to Season 9 for the Gold Runners, and is going to join the likes of McNair, Marsh, Cutler, as well as many other names you may recognise. We've got some brilliant names and some new faces as well, as you will come to see. A couple of shuffle arounds and a couple of different racers who will be taking to the track potentially for the first time. So it's going to be a big mix-up, but 20 drivers alone in the gold group is going to be a spectacle and a half. We've also then going into the silvers. We have 16 drivers joining us. We have some, again, very familiar faces like Iro. We've got Craig Morrison and Ribeiro. I gotta say, before we continue as well, it's good to see some names that I've missed for a couple of seasons due to the Monday nights. It's good to have some names back that we were sorely missing on the broadcast. But very welcome additions back to the grid. But 16 silver drivers, as you can see on your screens, and we will take a bit of a highlight tour throughout the entire roster as we get into things, and then rounding out with the bronzes. We've got 14 bronze cars joining us this season, and we have got quite an eclectic selection. So we've got all the way from Rog Tismukes to John Gabbert and everyone in between. I do apologise if I'm sort of leaning over. My preview window for this scene is quite small. I'm just looking to adjust that. But that is where things currently stand. Now, an important thing that has changed for this season is qualifying. qualifying is actually a little bit longer this season because for our drivers, we were sort of thinking about this a little bit, and one thing that was potentially set to become a problem is with so many cars on track, how do you manage qualifying? For reference, folks, we are in free practice. We're just finishing the final 60 seconds, and we have 46 drivers. This is going to be nuts. Absolutely nuts, and I cannot wait. But in order to introduce a bit of order to the qualifying session, we have two 10-minute stints. We have the first 10 minutes for the bronze and the silver groups, and then the second set, so the final 10 minutes, is going to be just for the gold drivers, just for the gold 20. So that will be a way to sort of keep things balanced out and keep things in a good place in terms of the session. Make sure that there's no major drama, no major upsets, and now will be the time for them to shine. We're just coming up to the end of free practice now, but let's go and see what these drivers are capable of. Of course, looking at a little bit of an overview and seeing what the track is looking like from a nice top down. You might catch a little bit of the audio from some of the drivers just finishing their practice session. But you have got a very daunting track in the form of Spa. Big standouts, of course. You have got Eau Rouge and Radion. You've got the Camel Straight, where you can pick up a lot of speed, set up some potential overtakes. And then you have Pouon, which is where you can potentially put your opponents under some major pressure if you know what you're doing and you're feeling risky. La Source Chicane, or not, Bus Stop Chicane, sorry, and heading into La Source are also very good overtaking opportunities. De Blanchimont is going to be your lead up. But here you go, you can just hear it in the back end. That is the green light, and that is where things are going to start to get moving. So let's jump out of here. Let's go trackside, and let's see what our racers are going to show us as we jump on board one of the first cars out on track, number 49 of Chris Wilson. Going to be one of the silver runners and is going to be jumping out as soon as they can. Now, remember, the gold runners are waiting in the pits for 10 minutes in order to relieve some on-track congestion. It's still going to be a sizable cohort on track. Still going to be about 20 cars, if not more. Yeah, 20 bordering more closer to 30 in all reality. As Wilson is going to be lapping himself round, and many other cars are going to be sweeping through, like Stuart Holmes. Got to say, looking very dashing in that livery of his. Mighty shiny. Lots of different runners going to be joining us. Matthias Martinsen in the Mustang, another Wolfpack car. A Wolfpack proving to be a popular team on the grid. And certainly a rocket ship. Now, a little birdie told me, that little birdie being Mr. Hamby, told me that Matthias Holmberg is the livery wizard for the Wolfpack folks. So he is in the pit right now, but wanted to give a special shout to him because those cars do look mighty fine out on track. And to say, Hamby has also done a few liveries of his own. He's of course done his own Lamborghini, which I think he's returning to, the home base. But he has done the pleasure of a few other cars, and we'll hopefully get a chance to show those off. But first laps are now getting started. Let's jump on board with Wilson, and let's see what he can do. Jumping immediately into the splitter. You see a bit of a gauge on his speeds here. So coming up, or should I say down from La Source into Eau Rouge and Radion. See what kind of speed you can hold. Jump to 240k's, and then a little bit of an ease as you go up the hill. You don't want to push on the throttle too hard. You can get the car upset. Cleanly done from the Aston. Now makes his way down the Kemmel Straight. He's easily going to be pushing past 260 kilometers an hour before he's going to have to stomp on those brakes nice and fast all the way down to second gear as he wheels that through Lecombe. Then you begin the downward descent of the circuit. Through Bruxelles in to No Name in just a moment. It's all about keeping just a smooth ride. Smooth inputs, no sudden moves. That's going to be the name of the game here. Go on now. Again, got to ease off. Let the car do the work. Don't try to force the nose in too much. You will get a face full of grass and or tyre if you don't respect the machine underneath you. Cleanly done through the second sector. Makes his way nice out. Now going into Stabilo and then into the final sector. This is where you put the power down. This is where we're going to see some of those benchmarks come through. So Wilson's going to be the first target. He's going to be first pickings. Blanchimont. Keeping it nice and quick. No lift there. Keeps it fully pinned. Still within track limits, if barely. 265. Stomps on the brakes on the grass patch. Little bit too deep on the bus stop chicane, but still makes it work. Out through the final corner. And what's it going to be? Mr. Wilson in the 49. It is going to be a 2 minute 19. Nicely done. And this is where we see some of the others on the field start to make their mark. Craig Morrison in the 213 is going to be sweeping through next. Stuart Holmes with a 221. Glenn Parkinson, 220.7. Just usurped by North and Homer, second and third. So Morrison coming down to the line here. A good time, looking like it's going to be in the 19s. As Rich Arscombe is going to be coming into third place. Morrison's going to get 221.5, so not quite the time he was looking for, but it's still something on the boards, and it's still going to be what works. Looks like we've got a RTP for Peter Smith. He's just going to be abandoning the attempt, rather save the time and go into the pits. Here's Andy Trickett. Number 115, McLaren, closely followed by Iro in the Porsche. Up to the line. Keep it clean. Keep it smooth. 222.7. Good run from Trickett there. Olsen just coming behind in the Lamborghini. And it's good to see some of the Lambos on the track again. It's a car that I have for sure missed out on field. Radoslav Vyšarek in the 296 GT3. Now making his way through with a very nice blue and red livery. See some of the Revel sponsors. Very nice looking car indeed. I like the contrast. And I like the pace he's bringing to the table. 219.320. He's just going to pip Chris Wilson. And Anthony Hebert is going to be, so far, in a sort of fitting trajectory given his performance last season. Currently stands to gain in a big way. 218.6, massive delta over the rest of the group, and comfortably leading off of the rest. Roger Dismiquez is going to be in the number 420 car. Noticing a distinct lack of chrome colours this time round, but still looking mighty sharp in the Porsche. And, more importantly, he's looking mighty fast with a 221.4. So it's last chances for a lot of this field, as they are soon running out of time before the next group comes out. Here's the number 808, is Bob Jones. A clean line going and heading in to Bruxelles now. Just got to keep the car nice and gripped up. Don't get too aggressive on the throttle, that's where accidents happen. We've got Randy Zimmer coming in with a 218.817, and Robert Homer goes to another shot with a 219.235, just pipping off Vyšarek in the number 4. A couple of drivers returning to the pit lane, deciding that Maybe that was their last attempt, or at least say final attempts are now coming through. Jones keeping it clean so far, goes quite wide, unfortunately. I don't think that's going to be a time to remember for him, but there's a couple more cars now coming through. Trickett just finishing up his lap, 220.407. That's going to be now 15th for him, as he just got undone. That's going to be Paul Murray and Neil Mellon, who are going to be sweeping up Iro as well. Looking like a rocket ship, and into the top 10. Hey, you buddy. Oh, slide for the camera. But looking very impressive. A lot of this field have taken their chance and really ran with it. Some really solid laps throughout the entire course. Heber is currently on a PB, but we're just coming up on Chris Wilson here. He's 4/10 up on his Delta, so he can potentially put himself into the 218s with a well-timed lap. Say nice and smooth here from the Aston. Oh, looks like Heber had to abandon the lap though. He's going to return to the pit lane. Wilson's got half a second and he's going to get himself into third of the group. Very impressive and nicely done. Well played indeed, Mr. Wilson. A couple other cars now sweeping their way through. Peter Martin. 261 BMW. Red Bull sponsor. I've got to say, it looks really nice on that BMW with the colour scheme. Comes up to the line. He's into the top 10. 219.9. Although just outdone by Rich Arscombe. And number 76, literally just behind him. And squeezes him out the top 10 just as soon as he gets in there. Randy Zimmer just coming across the line, but no improvement set. Michael Ball. And the number 97 now coming up to the line. Sat in P20. But this is where it gets interesting, folks, because this is where the final 10 minutes are now coming up. And this is going to be the Gold Class Shootout. Unfortunately, no improvement for Ball. So it's last chances for a lot of drivers on the field. Helge Olsen getting a massive improvement on time. Unfortunately, not enough for position, but still brings them much closer to their rivals. Then Parkinson and the number 77. A very nice green and gold livery there. Just making their way down into Puon. Chris Wilson also on a potential fastest lap. We're actually going to jump over to Wilson and see what he's capable of here, because he's 2/10 up on, I think that is, say, the fastest. Either PB or fastest overall. But now the gold runners are going to be out on track and out in force. You can see a ton of them already in, and now the silver and bronze racers are going to be pulling in, finishing their laps, and then returning to the pit lane to clear the track for the next cohort. Comes up to the line. Wilson is just shy. Unfortunately, he loses a 10th or 900ths of a second. It's going to be P2, but it's not going to be enough to bring this one home for him. Omar, fresh coat of paint. And fast-looking car. 3/10 up, 218.9 on the cards, does get it, and gets into P4. Last couple of laps here now, Arscombe just behind in the Aston. 219.552, and into P9 to close out their session. The last couple of races on the other groups, and now it is time, 29 races later, to start off the Gold Shootout. This is where things can get very spicy, ladies and gentlemen, because these are the best of the best. And what way to start it than with one of the late surges and absolute rockets that was on the silver team last season. Here's Lenatus. And Lenatus, if there's one thing we know him for, it's for having a steadfast trigger finger when it comes to pulling the shot on quali. Knows how to get out pretty much ahead of the entire field. I wonder if that's the case today. He's got a couple of cars ahead of him. Furthest up ahead is going to be Lindblom, and Lindblom has gone for a change of coating. He's gone for the Acura, or the Honda, sorry. He's gone for the NSX GT3, and he's got a very nice ARTA livery, courtesy of Hamby. So let's see just what kind of fire he's got in the tank this season. Of course, has been a tour de force 2 seasons on the trot, closely followed by teammate Engdahl, who has opted to stay with the Nismo for this season. But the two are a force to be reckoned with. And we'll see if anyone is going to challenge that dominance this time around. There's a much bigger set of drivers and some switch-ups in the order. So there's still plenty of chance for someone to come in and swing a hammer at that wall. The other two teammates. Anyway, it's going to be a close one as the laps are soon coming to a close. Lindblom is coming through Blanchimont now and looking rapid as he does so. 255, 260, and then jumping on the brakes there. Not the same peak speed, but looks fairly quick and able to rotate quite nicely. They're out of the final corner, and it's a 216 immediately. Really showing some absolutely rapid pace. 216.945. What has he got under the hood of that thing? It's going to be 217.762 from Engdahl. It's going to be Lenatus with an 18.4. Gemar, another really strong challenger from last season, is going to be in a 217.1, and Oskari Herme, now promoted up to this group, is also jumping into the Honda and is also going to be proving themselves quite a formidable racer with a 217.5. Marsh sticking try and true to the Porsche. No major changes there, but if it ain't broke, why fix? Damien Reed coming through as well, and gone for a fresh coat of paint for the Lexus. This time looking fairly fruitful, and forgive me, I'm trying to think of words to describe it, but I look at it and I just think ice cream. And I really do love the design of it, but the colours do make me think of ice cream quite a lot. Either way, I'm certainly going to find it difficult to miss that car as it rockets around the track. Peyton is coming through and has got a fresh paint. So yeah, the D2 wrap adorning in that sort of checkerboard pattern. McNair closely following behind. So in the iron blue once more, the number 13. Björklund making their way down and looking solid again in the Wolfpack livery from Holmberg. I want to make more of a highlight of people who are making liveries. So if you know anyone who's made the livery for yourself, or if you made it yourself, make it clear, because I want to highlight that talent as well. That's half a job in and of itself, designing a good looking race car. So we've got a couple of other faces who are permeating the grid as well. Ben Nergaard, the 313 Mercedes, got himself into P5. Strong initial showing with a 17.980. So one of the few drivers to get into the blessed 17s on their inaugural run. Next up, though, coming through, Lenatus pushes himself up into a P6, 218 flat. And has certainly got the wherewithal to go for the jump. Here comes Holmberg, and what will he get? It's going to be P14, 218.745. Not quite where he wanted to be just yet, but still chances here. We'll see what the drivers can show us. Herme in with a small time improvement. It's going to be a 0.390, and Jimmy Engdahl in the P4 spot with a 0.447. Johan Larsson making an appearance, and not in the McLaren either. Not in the McLaren. That is an interesting sight. I'm so used to seeing that 720S that it's almost thrown me for a second. With Larsson in a Mustang. Either way, certainly proving to be a good change thus far if it's the pace that can be extracted. And we're joined by Dan Whitehouse as well in the 176 Ferrari. 218.345. Ostrachaz making a promotion as well. Number 74 BMW. And in good time too. P14 on the grid. And looks to be already making some deltas up. We're going to jump aboard with Lindblom once more here as they looking to be pushing the envelope even further. Remember, initial run, they got a 2:16.9. Now that is a very impressive run in its own right, but I don't think Lindblom is happy. I think, like with previous seasons, they want to set a statement. And currently 3/10 up relative to their previous lap. I think that statement is certainly going to be a charged and powerful one. Coming through to Blanchimont now and hooking it nicely into that left side apex, swinging out wide to preserve as much speed as you can, and then heavy on the brakes, get that car rotated through the bus stop. You can see how narrow he runs it just to get on the power as soon as possible. 3/10 up, 2:16.9 becomes 2:16.6 dead. Ridiculous speed, and that's where he's going to call it. Justifiably so. You can see Hermé is actually on the back of Guillermo right now. Not sure if they're going to be taking advantage of that situation. Looks like they went a little bit deep into the bus stop chicane. It looks like they've actually invalidated. 2:17.1 becomes a 2:17.0 for Guillermo. Not quite hitting the 16s as they would have hoped. And unfortunately for Hermé, 0.127 was what they got. However, they invalidated the previous run. Marsh into P9. A couple more changes around the field. Björklund into P10. We have also a couple of drivers who are coming up to the line here. There's Ostrachaz. A few different cars who are choosing to abandon their laps. So heading into the pits. Not going to be able to commit to the final one. Qualifying is coming to an end. Ostrachaz just going to come up to the line just shy before getting another attempt. That's going to be Curtains, and that's going to be P14. As the last cars are now making their way around the course. Here's Richard Cook in a very bright pink Mustang. One of the drivers who is sort of stuck in the middle of the other cars on the course. Okay, we've only got one driver yet to set a time. That is Peter Smith. But Cook coming up to the line. What's he going to get? Is there going to be an improvement on the table? Not so. It is going to be a 2:20.415. Okay, Peter Smith, unfortunately, not setting a time earlier on. This is meaning that there will be last couple of cars now pushing through. Engdahl is actually down on his previous lap, on his previous delta, so it's not going to be the win that was necessarily desired. Hopefully he gets a chance to see things through, but I'm not too sure if it's going to work out in his favour in the way that he wants. Engdahl sweeping a little bit deep on the bus stop, but has managed to gain a little bit of time. Loses it on the exit, though. It's going to be a 2:17.8, and that's going to be the end of his run. Here comes Lenatus. No improvement. In fact, 3 milliseconds shy of an improvement here. Cutler, however, in Anismo is going to get himself into P10. Very good last run there, and into the 2:17s. That's a statement for himself there. Marsh is going to be significantly down. What about James Payton? Looking to be about equal, although slight bump up on the bus stop. We're running about equal to his deltas. 0.2, it's 0.025. Slightest of improvements, but no major. Whitehouse comes up. And that is going to be the end of the session, folks. So let's go through and give it everything. So, Lindblom continues to be a tour de force in this season with a strong initial quali and 0.4 of a second away from Frederick Guillemot in the Mustang. In his own right is a seriously impressive competitor, so really goes to show that gap has not made him lose his edge, nor is the change of car. Ben Neergaard in a very impressive debut showing here on the broadcast. has got himself into P3 with a 27.127. And from there, we have a bit of a interesting one, as we have got so many different gold class cars that it's almost tough to tell who is where. Anthony Heber is going to be your leader for silver, however, and with a strong time of a 218.677. That is really an impressive showing on debut for the season. Chris Wilson is going to be in second with Randy Zimmer into third with a 218.7 and a 218.8 respectively. Finally, to round things out, you have got the bronzes, and that is going to get the top honour bestowed in the Honda, showing a bit of a meta change, or a BOP change maybe. But Gabbett with a 219.7 is going to be your fastest bronze car driver, with a very impressive run and a very clean livery to boot. Second place is going to go to Andy Trickett in the McLaren 720S, and Rog Dismuquez with a very strong initial lap, and then rounds it off by pushing that even further to a 220.730, and taking a solid grip on the session. In fact, got an identical time to Christian Sullivan in the Lamborghini, so perfectly identical times. It must be in the sub-milliseconds there. But let's get things up to speed. And let's take a bit of a walk through the grid as the session is about to get underway. So, real impressive racers out on track right now, but let's see who's who. And let's get a grip on who we want to watch. So we have, of course, Lindblom in the number 888 Honda, and Guillemot in the 208 Ford. Neergaard in the 313 Mercedes, and Ascari Herme in the 169 Honda, also making the switch. Engdahl is going to be row 3 in the Nismo once again, with Johan Larsson lining up, switching to the Mustang for the season. McNair is going to be in the 13 Nismo once again, with Damien Reed, fresh coat of paint, but same Lexus, in row 4. Dave Marsh and Justin Cutler are going to complete your 5th row and the top 10 in the 27 Porsche and 35 Nismo respectively. Meanwhile, Björklund and Linatus are going to be in row 6 while you're here, with some very impressive running throughout. James Payton and Adam Ostrichars in the Mercedes and BMW are going to complete row 7. Dan Whitehouse is going to be in a Ferrari 176, and then Anthony Heber is going to join us in the 16th spot, the number 28 Ferrari. Holmberg and Wilson create row 9 with the Ford and the Aston Martin, with Randy Zimmer and Paul Hamby completing our cohorts in the top 20. Homer and Visharek in the 6 Porsche and the 4 Ferrari going to be 21st and 22nd on the field, with Paul Murray in a very sharp looking McLaren, and Neil Mellon with a very colourful looking McLaren as well. Oh no, sorry, that is a Ferrari. And another of Hamby's creations. Massison and Arscombe is going to be in 25th and 26th. Renato Ribeiro and John Mitchell going to be in 27th and 28th. Bonus points for the retro Rothmans livery. And John Gabbett alongside Craig Morrison, 29th and 30th. It's crazy how far we've got in this grid. Seiru and Martin are going to be in the 992 and 261 Porsche and BMW, along with Alex North in the 33 and 34 spot, going to Glenn Parkinson. Andy Trickett and Richard Cook in the McLaren and the Ford, going to be in your 35 and 36th positions, with Rog and Christian Sullivan will be in that's row, I want to say that's row like 18, 19 now. Row 20 is going to go to Stuart Holmes and Richard Coulomb. That's good to see that name again, with Nisbet and Bull in 41st and 42nd. Helge Olsen and David Drury are going to be in the 949 Lamborghini and number 15 Ferrari, with Quinn Kellenberg and Bob Jones in the 23 Ferrari and 808 McLaren. Last couple of cars now, it's Andy Newman in the 404, a very nice Petronas Mercedes livery, and Peter Smith in the 113 McLaren. That completes your grid walk, and what a grid it is. Now, this is going to be a 60-minute race with a mandatory pit stop. Fuel is required, but tyres are not. That is your condition. That is your choice as a driver to make. Now, we have got word courtesy of the chat. Thank you very much for letting us know here that Peter Smith is suffering from some PC issues, so he may choose to pull out to prevent himself from becoming a danger to others on the course. And honestly, that is peak sportsmanship right there. Not wanting to disturb the race of others, and even if it's outside of your control, taking that step, it's an honourable one. So regardless of the outcome, well done to Pete for being a absolute trooper and committed to a good race. Now, everyone is going to be slowly parading their way around for the formation lap. Key thing to note is that we are going to have a lot of cars who are going to be in a very small space of the course. So I cannot stress enough the importance of clean driving. You've got to watch your 6, you've got to watch your 3 and your 9. No room for error, especially on lap 1. There will be a cavalcade of racing machinery sweeping through this course, and you cannot afford to look away, even for a microsecond. Got to hit drive. Oh no! Oh no! Brutal. Oh no, Colin! What have you done? Oh, hopefully things are swiftly resolved. That's going to be Reed jumping into the pit. Interesting. Not sure what's going on there. Now, this is where everyone now slows down. You say 100 Ks. We'll be pulling that down a little bit further to about 60 as we make our way down. Lindblom leads. Hebert leads for silver. Gabbert leads for bronze. This is going to be an explosive season opener. I can already feel it. Already feel the tension as the session is about to get underway. Let's see what the race will be giving us, what will be in store. We make our way up to La Source, and now will be any moment now. Waiting for race control to go green. It's been a long time coming, but one quali session, few weeks, and 48 drivers later, I'm proud to say that for the first time in Season 9, we are about to go racing. The track is hot, race control is at the waiting, and the green flag is about to drop. Let's go racing. One more time, and here we go. Green flag, it is a go, and already we've seen chaos at the back of the grid. Quickly going to an absolute nightmare. That's going to be Ostrachars losing his spot and losing his call. There's going to be a quick jump further down, and it looks like there is going to be chaos left, right, and center. Everyone's just trying to find their space on the track. There's been a major incident at the start of the race. Hopefully everyone can regain their composure and do so fast. It's going to be coming up and down the field. It is going to be Peyton alongside another car trying to find some space. You can see there's going to be Larson as well, yielding to Engdahl. Marsh as well, going to get a spot off of him. In while Dan Whitehouse and Anthony Hebert waiting in the wings. Chaos ensues, and Linatus, you see, briefly peeking out of there, and say Brissell and into no name now. It's going to be two abreast. It's going to be too wide. There have been issues at the back of the pack. There's going to be drivers already jump into the pits. There's going to be North. Colomb is out on the Kemmel Straight. Gabbert has not had a good time either. And he's right at the back. Really has been a bit of a early nightmare, early days for this lot here, but chaos has hopefully died down as we now have two distinct pockets of the circuit forming. We've got Hamby chasing on a chance. He's going to be sweeping his way to the inside. There's going to be Holmberg on his left. He peeks the nose. They back in that Lamborghini that we all know and love. Welcome back, King, number 84. The top 10 has stabilized and looked fairly regimented, at least for the time being. Lindblom, Geerman, Nergard all keeping their positions at Hermé, with Engdahl dropping in, or at least gaining a little bit, actually. So Larson was the one that was dropping. Bus stop chicane, a little bit of chaos. Oh no, that's Lenatus. Lenatus has spun or been spun throughout that moment on the course, trying to get a track of it, but there is so much going on that my tool literally cannot keep up. It is literally freezing and lagging with how many reports of incidents, contacts, etc. that are being generated. Or at least on-track events. Oh, that's very risky. That's Sullivan there, getting rotated to the side. Natus just about avoiding that, sticking to the back of Ribeiro. And going to have a bit of clearance, hopefully, to get his feet back on. When we look at that, let's take a little bit of a recount of exactly what happened. So this is going to be the incident that occurred earlier on, and you can just see it's chaos. It is contact left, right, and center. One car becomes 2, becomes 5, becomes 10, and it's tough to discern where it started, nor is it anyone's particular fault. Sometimes, especially at the start of the race, this is just how things go. One small tap, one small squeeze of space can have such a domino effect. With so many cars packed that closely together, there's no telling what can happen. And as you saw there, what happened is it displaced a massive chunk of the field, about 40% of the field, and even more of said field have headed into the pits. There's Dismakes, Vissery, Gabbett, Ostrachaz, Cook, along with North and Colomb, both, I think, retiring out to the pit lane. So we are down to 46 drivers now. There's been some ups and downs, winners and losers, up and down the field. We're only 5 minutes in, folks, if that, and I don't think I've had a chance to even breathe, let alone take in what is going on. Visserek is going to be chasing, and oh no! A little bit of contact being made there. That's Wilson. I think sure that's going to be picked up by the stewards, but it's a difficult situation there. Hard, tough racing. Wilson luckily getting a decent recovery, still managing to pull himself back into 23rd. A lot of positions lost, but not so much on time. He can pull this back. Meanwhile, a bit further up, it's going to be Hebert and Hamby, as we see a couple of cars now jumping into the pits even more so. Ostrachaz and a couple of others are going to be in and out of the pits. You can see Ostrachaz, Dismakes out of the pit now. North is actually out, as well as Colomb. So what previously thought was an early retirement, turns out they were just taking those extended repairs, doing what they need to do as soon as they can, get themselves back in the fight with minimal delay. There's going to be Melon as well. Something has happened to Melon. Let's take a brief moment and see exactly what happened there. So there's going to be Neil Melon here, number 11. Trying to see exactly what happened. Rouge, Ragnon. Oh, no, that is brutal there. Brutal. What can you really say to that? Just a tank slapper into the tyre wall. I'm very glad this is the virtual world, because that could have ended seriously badly, should it come to pass IRL. Let's take stock of the racing situation then. So, top 3 for the gold class, Lindblom, Geerman, Nergard. They have got themselves a healthy little race pocket, with Hermé about half a second away. Engdahl is 2 seconds further, so I don't see him being a major bother at this point in time. You got Hebert, who is leading for the Silvers, with Homer and Visharek in second and third. And then looking a little bit further down the order as we try to play catch-up, it's going to be Christian Sullivan leading on for the bronze group, with Smith and Trickett a few seconds away. So, very interesting turn of events, as the racers are certainly showing their colours and showing their full potential with no delay. Looks like there's been a small accident between Newman and Drury, so we might get a chance to review that later on. Niesbet getting on the back of Stuart Holmes as well, towards the back of the grid. But eyes on this point are currently coming out of the bus stop chicane is Craig Morrison, who's going to be yielding to McNair. Now McNair is going to be on a rescue mission. Remember, he didn't get to press drive, so effectively was from the back of the grid. And oh, contact made! That is, I think, with Ribeiro. That is contact made, and very quickly Morrison's race has been hit with a downturn, figuratively and literally, as that's going to be Trickett, Reed, Jones, et al. All passing him by, putting him down into 32nd. Meanwhile, on the Kemmel Straight, seeing a couple of trades over. Martinson and Zimmer overtaking on Mitchell and Arscombe, respectively. Now, will they be able to hold on to it? That is the question. Looks like Björklund has gone too deep or lost control of the car. We just saw him on the side of the circuit, and it literally has not been a chance to breathe with how much action is going on. I love this season, and we're only 10 minutes in. Chaotic is not the word. Well, looks like we're going to have Craig Morrison peeling off to the inside of the course. Will they return to the pit lane? That is the question. The car's looking a little bit beaten, a little bit bruised. I do feel for him right now, because he's not had an easy time. That car tells a story, you know. Jumping a bit further into some calmer waters, and up into the lead of the session. Lindblom currently stands 2 seconds clear of Guillemard, but it's Hermé on the back of Neergaard. A really good initial showing from the Mercedes, but Hermé, as we know, is capable of extracting some real pace. He's in new machinery, so he's yet unproven, but as a driver, as far as they go back when they were in the 296, this could get interesting. Sticks on the back all the way through La Source. Refusing to give any space, any pressure, and even with Guillemard now peeling off and this becoming a three-way battle, still not going to be any chance for recourse just yet. Looks like there's a bit of an altercation as well, as we have Zimmer and Mitchell coming up with incident flags. Looks like there's been an accident. We'll have to review post-haste. But eyes currently still trained towards the front, as anyone could jump for a move at any moment. See, Neergaard is right now stuck in arguably the worst position, as he's got on the back of him a very fast Honda, and to the front of him he's got a just as fast, if not slightly faster, Mustang. So does he go for the attack, or does he try to play a balance game? Try to walk that tightrope of offense and defense, and how long is he going to keep that up for? Neergaard's certainly got a lot of weight on his shoulders. I'll have to wait and see how he handles it. Hermé is not going anywhere. You see continued sort of yellow flags popping in and out. It's going to be Drury, I think, having a bit of an issue. Hopefully they can right the ship, get themselves back on course. So at the back we have got, what's the emergent pit cars of Coulomb and North out on course once more. All and Jones also taking a bit of a position swap, but watch for what Hermé does here. It's really coming in close now. Really is coming in close. It it's going to be a quick challenge from Hermé, maybe. Emma has actually peeled away. He's got about half a second of time. I don't know. Anything can happen here. I really can't look away from this battle right now, as it's just Hermé perfectly trying to tee himself up for a challenge on the Mercedes. Here we go. A little bit more speed, just the tiniest bit more onto the Mercedes. This could be go time. Make or break for the attackers. Going to be Nergard going on the defense. He's going to sweep to the inside. Now, can he hold that line as we head into Lecombe's chicane side by side at the end of the Camel Straight? Apex on the left, barely keeping enough space for each other, but still keeping it respectful. Hermé is going to have to tuck into the back. What a defense from Nergard. Quality defense. Looks like that is a car that is peeled off to the side of the course. I think that is the number 15. Although yet to precisely confirm. Yep, that is Drury. I think Drury is struggling with a mechanical issue. We'll have to check back in on him and see how he's doing later on. So Mitchell on the back of Arscombe, coming in hot with the Rothmans Porsche, the number 24. Certainly going to be staging a potential challenge. He's practically limping his car on the infield. He might want to return to the pit lane at that stage, as an unsafe rejoin could be on the cards. Don't want to be risking anyone's race. Mitchell isn't quite going to have the tail on Arscombe now, but tell you who is having a potential challenge. It's going to be Linatus on the back of Wilson. And with Zimmer getting involved too. He's just a little bit further ahead. This battle could get interesting. This is going to be, for Linatus, a little bit of a rescue mission in the same way that McNair, currently P23, is having to fight his way up the grid too. Both drivers not being dealt a good hand on the luck sense. And so they've got to make things move, and make them move quickly. Time is of the essence to rejoin the pack. See, Hebert will be making a move on Holmberg, as I think Holmberg did have a bit of an off, or go too deep into La Source chicane. You can see there's Hebert getting away from him there. And now it's going to be a close one to call. Meanwhile, Hermé still on the back of Nergard and still not getting by. The Mercedes is putting up a Herculean defense. Looks like Linatus and Wilson, and oh no, that has gone badly for them. It's the 12 and the 49. Let's take a bit of a replay, see exactly what happened. So this is replay. This is going to be Linatus and Wilson. Let's see what happens. So, first off, Linatus on the inside, Wilson on the outside. They're going into Eau Rouge and Radillon. They're going together. This is very risky. We know this often ends in tears, and they both did end in tears. One in the tyre wall, and a brutal finish. That is going to be returning Wilson, I believe, to the pit lane. And, yep, that is confirmed. Into the pit lane for Wilson there. So, a bit of a dark spot on the race so far. 25% distance in. And looking like we are seeing a bit of a technical issue, or a mechanical issue, from Linatus' car. This may necessitate a pit stop if it gets bad enough. You can see how much he's taking wide some of these corners. Race situation has stabilized in a lot of areas. Linatus is the closest to another car right now. But that could quickly change, as it seems like a uphill battle to keep that Audi on pace. He's managing it well. You can see arcing a little bit wider in some of these corners. Maybe it is just difference in lines, but also looks like a struggle for control. You can see a little bit of a tap on the quarter there, as he's still trying his best to push forwards. Trickett is on his left. Sullivan is on the left also. And that is going to be... Oh no, that has gone badly for Lenatus. He's going to be off into the grass on the infield. Just careful on the rejoin. Try to get off the racing line if you can. This could get risky. Okay, Bob Jones, Andy Newman. They're both yielding off. Or I think that's Iro, actually. Yep, that is Iro. Luckily, incident avoided on all counts. There you go, Lenatus into the pits. He's had a bit of a torrid time here. And hopefully get a second lease of life after that pit lane switch. McNair, also on his own recovery, has just got past Garscombe. And this is where we see the real McNair coming out. He's going to be really pushing that Nismo as hard as he can. We know he can do it. He's shown that pace throughout previous seasons, and he's shown that evolution. So we certainly have a lot to look forward to here. Nice and cleanly run throughout Brissell and into No Name. The tiniest bit wide there, but still legal. Much ado about the race situation now. Say Drury nearly in the pit lane. If we can get that car all fixed up. Mitchell very close to Oscom on the back, so we might check in with them as well. But McNair, you can see just how hard he is driving that car to try and close the gap to likes of Zimmer, and how much he really, really wants that position. Never go between a man and his Iron Brew flavoured victory, one may say. Gabbett and Drury, along with Lenatus, now in the pits. So we see Lindblom as well is going to be in a 5-second pocket of the track. So looking nigh on untouchable. Helge Olsen, something has happened to their car. Looks like they have gone off the side of Puon there. Just taken a little bit too wide. And the car seems a little bit roughed up. So hopefully nothing happened. We can, of course, check. Let's go to the replay cam. So heading out of No Name. Let's see exactly what happened. Is Helge Olsen coming into Puon. Hitting on the brakes. Ooh, just a little bit too much weight transfer. Spin the car. Barely avoiding. Actually, I'm not sure if they did avoid contact. Looks like they sort of got kicked up in a way, but that is going to be a bit of a dent to the pride, if not certainly to the position. Reviewing on someone who is certainly putting the field through their paces, Anthony Hebert. Silver class leader right now. And by quite the margin to boot. About 3.5 seconds between himself and Robert Homer. Actually, no, I stand corrected. Make that 6 seconds. So there has been an issue for the number 808 car. That's going to be Bob Jones. Hopefully he can get that car recovered and moving again. Oh, Johan Larsson coming up to the back of Dave Marsh. Through the bus stop. Now if they mess this up, they've got Justin Cutler waiting in the wings, just itching to snap up that P7. So got to be very aware of what he does next. So here's Larsson trying to establish a bit of pressure on the Porsche just up ahead. Trying to just tee up any move that they can. Careful of the aero. As you go through Eau Rouge and Radion, nicely handled. Good speed coming out into the Kemmel Straight. You can see Marsh is already feeling the pressure as he goes on the defensive into the inside. Into Lacombe. Will there be a challenge coming from the Mustang? Heavy on the brakes, a little bit later on the brakes. Keeps it side by side. No, contact! Contact is made, and that is game over. Marsh is round in the chicane. Has to try and sweep it back. The other car's taking evasive action. That's going to be Whitehouse and Heber dodging the Porsche. Oh no, bit of lift off oversteer again. Barely keeps it together and out of the tyre. Well, Marsh is down now into P13 as Hamby and Holmberg now capitalise on the mistake after the contact. Oh, looks like something's really wrong with this car. Something messed up during that collision. Marsh is now fighting to keep that rear end gripped up at all. I dread to think how he's going to handle Puon. As we are coming up to there now, it's just got to get that car through it. Looks like he's able to keep it up, at least when he's turning left, but turning right seems to be a major issue on that sort of sore spot. I've got to be super careful here. You can almost see and how skatey the car looks. He's fighting the car. Really is having to wrangle it rather than work with it. You see we're arcing very wide there. Visharek, meanwhile, third in the silver, sort of playing spectator to this small display. And right now is currently sitting nice and comfortable in the wake of Robert Homer. The sweep is going to be a potentially large one, as we will now have drivers heading into the pit lane. It's going to be Marsh first. There's still plenty of time for drivers to get some moves done, but I don't know if anyone's going to go for anything too aggressive right now, or whether there will be just a grace period being afforded. Because your strategy is everything. It will be a case of setting yourself up for the second half of the session. So I don't think, like we're on board with Hermé right now, I don't think that he's going to go for it. He'd much rather bide his time, wait it out, and then see what opportunities can be afforded as the session progresses. Session is now 25 minutes deep, and with a big gap right now, it is going to be Lindblom in the lead with 6.5 seconds. Although not to be outdone, Guillemot is still fighting the good fight, and Nergard is 2 seconds away and actually closing, so watch this space. Hermé, half a second off of Nergard, is going to keep this top end thoroughly interesting. And Hebert is going to keep pushing those boundaries and really pushing on the buttons of Dan Whitehouse. This is tight to the back of that other Ferrari. The red and white versus the red and black. Who will come out on top? Holmberg and Hamby could be another great scenario to watch, but here he is. Hebert is going to tee up a little bit to the left. He's going to try and get a better bus stop, close that gap down. Just looks like a little bit too sharp of an angle. Wasn't able to pull all the speed that he would have liked. It's a swift and effective chase right now. Hebert still refusing to give even an inch to Whitehouse, and here he goes. He's going to go to the inside. Whitehouse opting not to take the defensive line, and that is going to be fully to Hebert's advantage as he presses the overtake, goes into Lecombe chicane, but Whitehouse still keeping a nice angle. He's still going to play the longer game here. Sticks to the back of Hebert. He's going to get by for now, but will he be able to hold it? Whitehouse is still within a couple of tenths. Very close. Whitehouse has certainly got a bit of work to do, but very clean overtake from Hebert. They're well capitalized, and now the stakes are raised. Hebert has got effectively 3 cars between himself and the next closest competitor in the group, so he's not going to have to worry about any major threats in the session. Christian Sullivan can say much of a similar story. 8 seconds away from Michael Bull, although not in the cleanest of movements as he goes over Lecombe curb. But still, Bull is going to be quite a far distance, and this will be playing to his strength here. Renato Ribeiro is into the pit lane in number 159. And so many other cars will have now taken a stop by this stage. Richard Cook, Alex North going in for his second, I believe. Wilson and Gabbett have gone in for 2 pit stops as well by this stage. Peter Smith will likely be heading in soon. We'll see. This is Ribeiro in. And a couple of change-ups. Damien Reed, Colin McNair having that early pit stop. He technically satisfies the requirements, but it's not quite going to be what he needs. Homer, Visharek, and Murray all into the pit lane. This is going to give Colin McNair an easy 3 positions. But the question is, will the top end of the field head in soon, or will they opt to stick it out? Will they opt to go further? Or choose the side of the traditional? That's the trade-off, basically. That is the trade-off. It's about whether you go for a quote-unquote optimal stop, half an hour each way, or if you try to flex it about a bit. You can take a splash and dash pit stop at the very end of the race. You can go early and run a longer stint all the way through. It's all about how you manage your car and how you adapt. You don't provision yourself enough fuel, then you could see yourself in big trouble. But if you give yourself too much fuel for your tyres, then you're going to be limping that car along just to satisfy strategy, and then giving the minimal amount of fuel required to make it home. It's all these trade-offs. You've got to find the best balance of action. So I'll say Homer, Murray, Visharek, Martin and Niesbeck going to join them. Quinn Kellenberg also jumping into the pits. Will we have anyone else? Here goes Helga Olsen. Many cars now jumping in right at the half-hour mark, looking to go for that quote-unquote optimal strategy. Liam Blom sweeping through to complete lap 12 and go on to lap 13. Just as we saw many others go into the pit. The leaders going to be pushing that envelope just a little bit further. See, checking in on some of the other spokes. I had a brief sort of technical tweak to try and fix some of the UI lag. Engdahl, Larson, Hamby, Holmberg all into the pit lane now. There will be a mass exodus of the pits, however, happening simultaneously. Here's Peter Martin coming out of the pits, and it will soon be followed before long by the likes of Quinn Kellerberg, Niesbet, and Olsen. In fact, Niesbet, I think, is on the pit exit approach now as we speak. So there you go, it is Martin just going to be coming off of the back of one of the Mercedes there. Just trying to see who that is, and that is going to be James Payton pit stopless so far, but proving to be a quick, speedy lap. Okay, many more cars now heading in. Martinson, Sullivan, Bull, Johan Larsson, Kallenberg and Olsen now are 2 minutes deep into the pits, but they're both going to be heading out now. There is Olsen and Kellenberg coming out here. See the just deluge of cars now going through. Engdahl is out of the pits. Larson and Cutler going to be following soon behind. Smooth sweep. But here comes the leaders as well. In a twist of fate, Liam Blom, Guillemot, Nergard, Hermé all into the pits. This is a very curious race dynamic I've observed over the years. The leader controls the other cars, the top 5 at the very least. Now, if you have Liam Blom heading into the pits, you bet your butt you're going to see Guillemot, Nergard, Hermé, Payton, Ebert, Whitehouse, basically anyone anywhere close to the immediate vicinity of the leader. They're going to go in. They are going to go in. And you know why? It's because you want to keep in good form with the leader. You want to bounce off the leader. Use them to pull you forward. So if you see the race lead heading into the pits, you can bet a good money that you will see at least the top 5 heading into the pits as well. McNair, though, is going to capitalise on the opportunity and his early pit stop to jump into the lead, the prospective lead of the race here. He will be carrying himself through. Now, question is, will he be able to make that last? You've got Damien Reed sweeping through also, who is going to be in second place. McNair will be tailed fairly closely by Renato Ribeiro. A lap down, but having completed their routine pit stop, not their maintenance pit stop, like we saw with Colin. This will be the major tell. The major tell is going to be how well they manage the pit stop exit. Is going to be Liam Blom first out of the pits. Guillemot is going to be coming out in second, so about the same pit timing, perfectly matched almost to the second. Nergard, Hermé, all sweeping their way out of there. Who is going to be fifth, though? Engdahl is going to be sweeping around the outside, having taken the pit stop just a little bit earlier. Is going to be in an advantageous spot. Will stand to gain a few seconds at least. Larson out in P8. Cutler out ahead of the likes of Payton. Hebert. Whitehouse is going to be into P9. Looks like we're already seeing squabbling as many cars in the run are going to be going out. Major squabbles happening at the sharp end of the field. Whitehouse coming out. Going to be Holmberg in the background. I'd love to take part in a father-son rivalry with Pete Smith. Well, you never know. You never know. I always tend to say the more the merrier. Oh, looks like we had Parkinson with an issue. That's going to be Lecomte Chicane. He's going to reverse into the tyre wall. Not looking good there for the McLaren. He's going to tuck himself at least out of the way of the racing surface. Make sure that he's not affecting anyone else. Try and get his car rotated in the grass. You'll see there's in the background as Neil Mellon is sweeping through P39. He's going to have to work to get his car back on track. A couple of changes owing to the pit stops. Now, pretty much everyone has taken a pit stop at this stage. Even Colin, who is going to be thinking about his second one soon. But Damien Reed into the pits now, having decided that a little bit later, but not too much pushing it, is going to be ideal for him in his race strategy. He is going to inevitably be overtaken by the likes of Lindblom et al. And in fact, that has just come to pass, but certainly a formidable racer who has put up his end of bargain and then some. Bob Jones returning to the racing surface, coming out of the pits. But Lenatus, currently P28, is chasing on the back of Christian Sullivan. So what a noise this Audi makes. I can't help but mention it. It's such a raucous car. There we are, 23 minutes remain. So up to 25 minutes left track time. Sullivan is going to yield off to the left side as they took a bit of an awkward line into these next couple of corners. Campos and Stabilo now. Looks like Lenatus has secured a P27. It's got some uphill work to do before he can thoroughly claim back to the others. Ostrachar's down behind him in P29. Then a couple of trades happening further up. It's going to be Heber and Hamby jostling each other for position. Hamby on the defensive, but trying to squeeze by. There will be fighting. There will be fireworks. Heber is not the kind of driver to let a position go. Certainly not without a substantial challenge to really make it worth the hunt. Thrill of the chase for these racers. Expect nothing less. We've got a couple of other racers also just trying to make a bit of the racetrack their own. Kallenberg, Bull, Mitchell, Zimmer, Visharek, just to name a few. Something noteworthy before we continue as well is just how impressive some of the driving has been. So here's Sullivan going a little bit off there, just losing a bit of lift off oversteer. But it has been seriously impressive to watch the drivers navigate this situation. Of course, yes, there have been incidents, there have been issues, but they're all going to happen. It's the first race of a new season, and you've arguably doubled the track congestion. You've doubled the racers on the course. So there's going to be a little bit of a teething period. Regardless, every racer showing up tonight worthy of a medal in their own way, because I'd certainly be very nervous at the prospect of driving a 48 strong grid. I'd certainly be nervous at the prospect. So I commend every driver who's got the moxie to make it out on track, let alone race at the level that they are. And such as Mitchell, currently fighting for P20. On a course. Really taking the fight to Arscombe. Nigh unstoppable right now. There is going to be significant pressure mounting. Coming down the Campbell Straight, getting closer and closer and closer. Visharek is going to be getting an advantage. Say Homer has dropped down. Homer, I think, had a bit of an issue on the course. Mitchell just refusing to yield even an inch on the pressure. In a substantial statement to that Aston up ahead, he's saying, nope, I want that position, and you are going to feel the challenge until I see fit. It looks like we have got a couple of hiccups coming from the 113 car. Looks like they're having a bit of a difficult time, so stop and go being cleared for the number 808 as well. Stop and go penalties being automatically assigned to those who overextend track limits just one too many times. But that has now been served. That has now been cleared. A little bit of a wide run for Oscom. This could be Mitchell's chance. Heel it to the back of Blanchimont into the bus stop. Chicane could get it done. Back of the Aston here is going to get closer and closer. Tries to tuck the nose into Blanchimont on the inside. This is very risky here. This part of the course, so dangerous. Goes to the outside and off the track, albeit briefly. Oscom is going to retain the position, but so close there. Very, very nervous. I'm certainly feeling that pressure, and I'm not even in the car. The Aston certainly got pair of wheels on him. Him and Mitchell, I feel like they're going to be battling for a good long while, especially as we're coming up to the next combat section, if you can call it that, of the course. Here's Eau Rouge and Radion, but heading into the Kemmel Straight. Speed is everything. Good setup here, and you'll get that overtake done before the chicane. Both of them done very nicely, but watch for the slipstream. Is Oscom going to go on the defense? He's going to go about the middle of the track. You can see here's Mitchell tucking right up close, even taking a little bit of a smooch of the splitter. But along the left side here into the chicane, is not going to take no for an answer. Nicely fought here between the two. The number 24 is going to try and switch it back out into Bruxelles, but has to tuck behind. Oscom in the 76 Aston is refusing any kind of shenanigans. He is going to hold firm to that P20. Impressively so. Currently stands as a strong competitor in this field. Very nicely done. Look forward to seeing what these two bring in further laps. Checking in further up, it is going to be Dan Whitehouse, as he's on the back of Anthony Hebert. Now this is an important overtake for him. I think that being in different classes, it's not that impactful. So that will be where things have to change, though. Hebert is going to be standing in the way of himself and Hamby up the road. He's got to make this overtake if he wants a chance at pushing into the other positions in his group and getting some more points out of this first race. Situation may look dire for some, but there's opportunity that lies in the chaos. Holmberg, for instance. Ooh, Holmberg with a very wobbly Eau Rouge and Radion there. Not looking good for him, but he's still keeping proximity to Whitehouse. Could stand to gain from this. Ooh, bit of lift off oversteer coming in from Holmberg, though. He's actually really looks like he's struggling to keep that car afloat. It's almost as if the Mustang looks nervous. A little bit too sensitive, a little bit too pitch heavy. I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm no expert tuner, but that car, seeming like at least on a couple of those corners, it was more of a fight to keep it in line than it was to get it rotated. We're seeing a similar story with Reed, although that simultaneously could just be about pushing the machine a little bit too hard and suffering consequence. Homer is going to be on the defensive Reed, and himself on the back of Vischerek. A potential three-way battle in the works, but Reed is going to expedite that just the tiniest bit, coming off of a mistake from Homer. Bit of a awkward situation there for Reed. You can see he's trying to negotiate his car around the Porsche. Workspace is not being afforded, however, by the number 6. Going to tuck it to the left. Gets a much better exit and heads into Blanchimont ahead of the Porsche and the number 6. Now it's on to the number 4 of Radislav Vischerek. So we have got a couple of local yellows coming out for some cars too. be a little bit dicey for the 949 and others. Not sure what's happened. Looks like there have been multiple cars who have had a bit of a problem. We're in fact going to jump on the replay cam and see exactly what is happening. So this is going to be the helicam. This is going to be for Bob Jones here. So I think just goes a little bit too deep into the corner. Fine in and of itself. But then I think so just a little bit wobbly. Actually, I thought there was going to be incident, but no such incident occurred. Actually, very nice driving there from Bob Jones. He goes a little bit too deep, but he recovers it quite nicely. A good way of handling things. Play it careful. Don't be unpredictable. And even if you make a severe mistake, it's not going to be the end of the world. Meanwhile, Stuart Holmes is going to be dealing with a bit of a lap in traffic situation. And that is going to be Reed on the inside. He's going to have to yield. This is blue flag conditions, remember. It's the overtaking car's responsibility to get round safely, but Holmes still needs to present a bit of an opportunity for the others to get by. Looks like Vishrek has gone deeper to the inside and was thinking that there'll be the inside pocket, but then, let's just say, getting a little bit dicey there, as I think both drivers are trying to predict each other's moves. Either way, no casualties, no major harm done. Looks like Ostrishars, though, has had a bit of an issue. Something's gone on with that car. Looks like it was just coming out of the pit lane too, so don't really know what to say about that one. A little bit of a tap, and oh, there's going to be two cars just in the background. That is T.S. Martinson, and can't actually see who that is behind, say number 774. That is Coulomb and P44. I think having a bit of an altercation with Martinson here. Handed in tears a little bit. Here's Bisharek now freshly past back marker, trying to challenge onto the back of Robert Homer now. Oh no, looks like there is contact, unfortunately. We just saw on the back of the camera. Hopefully no major problems. That's going to be the number 2. That's going to be, I think, Holmes and Quinkellenberg coming together. Unfortunate to see. Let's switch around. Let's also check in on some of our gold runners in the sort of back end of the group. As you have got Whitehouse, Marsh, McNair all running very close together in a fun twist of fate. Hebert, the silver runner, has brought them all together and united the racers. Funny how that works. Yeah, Whitehouse down to Holmberg all together. Marsh going for a big slide, barely keeping out of the tyre wall, going to No Name. Very well caught. I honestly thought that car was a goner, but sliding it just out of the knife edge of danger. He's down into P14, but the car's unscathed. Well driven. Whitehouse is going to be trying to get past the silver barrier. But, of course, really amping up the stakes for these other cars here, as they haven't really got the luxury of being able to stay behind. They need to keep this moving forward, and Hebert is really putting on a bit of a challenge. Whitehouse is going to be the first to take the offer, heed the call. Goes to the right side, heading to Blanchimont. And will he be hanging it all the way out to the side at Blanchimont is the question. Hebert goes a little bit too deep and goes off the track out on the exit. But here comes McNair. He's going to tuck the nose in. He's going to get squeezed in and is going to get contact on the back of the Ferrari. A little bit too deep on the brakes there. Not much he could have done. He was committed to the braking line, but just a slight misjudgment. Either way, McNair is going to get the advantage coming out, and McNair is going to get past Dan Whitehouse. And Lasource, can he confirm? Goes into the apex, takes the narrower line, better exit. That is going to be move done. Now Holmberg is on the back of the 176 Ferrari, and this small pack here has very quickly turned into a fight to get into the top 10 of gold. Oh, looks like the sky just changed there. The skybox is going to be toying with us just a little bit. But McNair onto the right side of Hebert. Hebert's going to be on the defensive. And looks like there's going to be a bit of contact made and barely hangs it in to the apex of Lecombe chicane. He's going to get it past. Hebert is all of a sudden being swarmed by gold class drivers that are, quite frankly, I think getting impatient of being stuck behind him. And oh no, contact made! Hebert is going to get a little bit of a sweep on the rear axle, and that is going to be him all the way down past by not only Whitehouse but Marsh and Holmberg. Unfortunate contact there puts an end to that little check. That little checkpoint, that is the 296, but Hebert still is remaining committed. He's recovered fast, and he's actually going to be challenging onto the back of Holmberg. Really is punching above his weight class here, and really giving us a good showing. Any other cars on the field are in this stage of the race, keeping things clean and simple. Final 10 minutes is where you get to the tougher decisions. Quinn Kellenberg has unfortunately span it round, just coming out of no name, trying to get it recovered here, but it's going to be a tough one for him. But the final 10 minutes is where you decide how you want to finish the race. Do you commit to an attack, or do you commit to your current position? You've got to make that judgment call. And the earlier you make it, the better you can set yourself up. Now, if I was in a position, for example, Holmberg, we're on board with right now. If I was in Holmberg position, I would want to fight forward for Whitehouse, because Whitehouse is 3.5 seconds away from Colin, who's 8 seconds away from Hamby, who's 12 seconds from Peyton. But there's no point in me settling. I want to get to the head of my group. I want to be in P11 where Whitehouse is, and then you can yield off and focus on defense. In the same breath though, if I was, say, Paul Hamby right now, I haven't really got any challenge either side, quite far away from the next car. The car that I would be defending from is got a lot of work to do. I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't worry about it. I would just keep things simple, keep things smooth, and lock in the P9 ahead of the end. So your context is important, your driving position and the other cars around you, where they're sat, that is just as important. Lost server connection. Oh, I'm sorry, mate. Shame to see it. Good to have you in chat, but shame to see the situation. They're down to 46 drivers now. Whether we count Ostrachels as a continuing driver or not is up for question. It's currently ticking out the timer. You have a brief yellow coming out for a couple of cars. There's going to be John Gabbert, I think. Brief yellow flag coming out. We've got John Mitchell still on the back of Arscombe. Just check in on this lot. Seeing as there is going to be close proximity in a potential fight brewing. See how this goes. Marsh could also be challenging for a spot, although it looks like he's just gone too deep onto the chicane. This actually could be a prime chance for Holmberg. E12 on the cards. Marsh now making mistakes. That means he's going to be bowing to pressure. He's not going to be doing too hot. Really have to up his game though. Basically got 2 laps left. If he wants to make any moves, he needs to do them now. Very aggressive Eau Rouge and Radion, barely keeping it within those track limits. think almost 10 minutes into the pit now. I think it's safe to say Osterschars is out of the session, meaning that we have, in effect, 45 drivers remaining. Once again, apologies, we aren't able to switch camera angles quite as fast. So my tools that I've sort of tuned for a 20 to 25 car grid are literally getting overwhelmed by the nearly 50 cars on the course, so we'll have to dial that back for next time. Here we are, great racing from everyone at this stage. We'll take a quick head count of the leaders of the groups. So, oh, actually, scratch that. This is going to be a quick fight, as it's going to be Engdahl v Hermé. I side into La Source. This could get interesting. Hermé being demoted down into 5th position. Engdahl has managed to make up some time. Now heading into Eau Rouge Radion, they're going to really challenge each other for the track space. Hermé goes a little bit too hot, and it just skips over the end of that complex. Engdahl's taking no chances. He's on the defensive. He's on the inside before peeling back out to the racing line, jumping on the brakes. Yeah, I did not expect to say I resonate with that. Also, I was not expecting the amount of stress it would place, not so much on my game, but certainly on the tools that I'm using to sort of spectate and manage the cameras for said game. Those are the parts that are struggling massively right now. As I've effectively doubled, and then some, data throughput that this program is having to handle. It is not having a fun time. Regardless, however, we are technically on to, or at least coming up to, the final lap here. At any moment now, Liam Blom is going to cross that finish line for the penultimate time, and then we will hear that call from race control. Once that timer hits 0, it's when the leader finishes the race. Session is officially concluded. So, you're going to hear it right here. And there you are. Give it the final push. You heard him. And I was expecting a little bit of pace drop, maybe, from Liam Blom, seeing as he was changing machinery. Maybe he takes a second to get adjusted to the new car, but really doesn't look like that's been an issue for him. It's just, I don't really have the words to say. It's been a weapon, absolute weapon on the course. Seasons, time and time again. And now 10 seconds away from Guillemot. That once again proves to be the case, at least in this opening round. Things could change. The season could take us in all manner of directions, but early indications show that Liam Blom is just as fast as ever. Although, Neergaard, what a initial broadcast showing. What a brilliant opener. Already taking the fight to the likes of Guillemot, Engdahl, Hermé. Established names that we've had on the broadcast for a couple of seasons now. Now, whether they've come over from the Monday night or whether it's completely fresh face, I couldn't tell you. I honestly could not tell you. But regardless of that, initial showing on the broadcast has made it clear that you need to watch this driver. Mr. Neergaard, it's a driver to watch heading into this next season. But as we come to a close, the timer has elapsed and one driver once again proven himself to be a top force. As he comes up to the bus stop chicane, closely tailed by other cars, but in a league of his own. sweeping through the final corner. David Lindblom takes the checkered flag and takes the initial round of the season. Season 9, round 1. The gold class goes to David Lindblom. GMR coming up to the line in second, and Ben Neergaard in third. Very, very impressive from those drivers, as well as everyone else now tailing through in the gold class now. Another driver who is seriously impressed as we make our way through, it's going to be Anthony Hebert. They were fighting tooth and nail with not only the rest of their group, but also challenging and pushing on the golds. So certainly the driver to keep an eye on as we head into this next season. Hebert was a quick driver before, but now it seems like he's really brought his A game into this season. He's not left anything on the table. And I'd be surprised if we don't see him in those top steps again very soon. But bus stop chicane, final rounds. Hebert is into the pit? What's going on here? Wait a second. That is unexpected. So Murray is actually going to cross the line ahead. Murray is going to cross the line ahead. Hebert is going to be in the second spot, and Vierscharek is going to be in third. I don't know what the choice was there. Is sacrificed to P1 by going into the pit lane? We'll have to inquire about that another time. Maybe he was out of fuel. Maybe he was like limping at home on fumes. Maybe that's what had to be done. But final few cars now closing off the circuit, and we have Niesbet in first with the bronzes, followed by Michael Bull, who has already left the session, so we can't jump to their car, and then Andy Trickett in third place. So very good showing from everyone out there. Everyone's going to be jumping in to the pit lane now, getting back. And then last car on the field, it is going to be Andy Newman bringing it home. I don't know if it had any penalty. I couldn't see anything on the data to suggest that it has a penalty. Yeah, there's no sort of output here, whether they got any DTs, SGs. Didn't see anything here, but Andy Newman brings it home, brings it to the fore, and comes across the line. And there we have it. Final order in full. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get to see everyone. We did have to say goodbye to a couple of drivers. So, namely, we lost Ostrachars, we lost Olsen, and we lost Björklund. But 48 cars later, it is a very impressive opener and a very exciting opener to the season. I, for one, can't wait for what the rest of the season holds. Exceptional work. And really great surges from a couple of other drivers. Linata's making his way back up into P25. You've got McNair making his way back up into P. So that will be certainly something to be proud of. Looks like Hebert did have penalties stacked on him, but couldn't actually see that from the tools. Yeah, now, if anyone does watch the replay, by the way, folks, this is another thing. We do have a bit of a slideshow going, and I am going to sort of peel my little camera to the side here to see some of the photos. Now, if you take any photos and you put them in the Discord, I want to feature them on this sort of running slideshow. So please, if you do get any photos from the replays, post them in that Discord. But to everyone else, thank you for joining us and thank you for watching. It has been a great opener this season. It has been an absolutely immense race, and I don't even know where to begin. It's really been sort of tough to keep track of so many of the moments. We're going to keep tuning things. Hopefully people have enjoyed the little sort of updates and upgrades to the visual presentation. Of course, you want to check us out next time here as we are waiting for the session to close out. There we go. We are going to be heading off to Silverstone very, very soon. So you don't want to go anywhere, folks. You do not want to go anywhere because this session is going to be over today. Season, far from it. Thank you again for having me back. I really have missed this. It is a great privilege to be broadcasting this season. And even if it's not me in the box every single time this season, we may see a couple of other faces depending on a couple of factors. I am very stoked to see where this season goes. But for now, everyone, my name's been Ben Sapsford, and I will see you next time. Next week, Silverstone. Be there, and we'll have a very exciting championship to keep on board with. Good night, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Three, two, one, go!